The morning sun barely broke through the thick clouds over Clarksville, Tennessee, as Millie's diner sat quietly off Highway 41, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat. Inside, the air smelled of bacon grease and fresh coffee, the kind of place where the red vinyl booths were patched with duct tape, and every table held stories of the town. Jolene, who'd worked the counter for 22 years, hummed softly while wiping down a ketchup bottle. It was just after 9 a.m. when Darnell Hughes pushed through the door, his Desert Storm veteran cap tilted slightly, his army jacket worn but proud. His limp, a reminder of battles fought far away, didn't slow his steady stride. In a corner booth, Andre Wallace, a wiry former Marine medic, sipped black coffee, scrolling through photos of his grandson. Their laughter, warm and deep, filled the diner as they swapped stories of old deployments and bad knees. "Man, you stitched that guy up with dental floss in Baghdad," Darnell said, chuckling. Andre grinned. "And you poured whiskey on his wound like it was water." They weren't here to relive glory. They just wanted a quiet breakfast, a rare moment to breathe. But peace, they'd soon learn, wasn't guaranteed. The bell above the door jingled sharply. Deputy Kyle Renshaw stepped in, his uniform crisp, his face set like stone. Late 30s, broad-shouldered, he scanned the room and zeroed in on Darnell and Andre's booth without a word. His hand rested near his belt, too close to his holster for comfort. Jolene froze mid-pour, coffee pot in hand, as the diner's chatter faded. "IDs," Renshaw said, voice flat. Andre raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me," Renshaw repeated. "I need your IDs. Got a call about 2 men loitering outside." Darnell's jaw tightened, but his tone stayed even. "We've been eating breakfast. What's the issue?" Renshaw didn't answer, his hand inching toward his radio. Andre leaned back, arms crossed. "You sure you're in the right place?" The room felt smaller, every eye on the booth. Jolene stepped forward. "Their regular's deputy. Been coming here for years." Renshaw ignored her, eyes locked on the 2 men. At the counter, Bianca Ramirez, a young woman visiting her grandmother, quietly turned her phone's camera on, capturing the tension in Renshaw's stance, the flicker in Andre's eyes. The silence grew heavy, like the air before a storm. Renshaw stood firm, his posture screaming authority, not reason. "IDs now," he said, sharper this time. Andre's voice cut through, loud enough for the diner to hear. "Someone called because 2 black veterans were having breakfast?" Renshaw's face didn't change. "I'm responding to a call." Darnell kept his hands visible, his voice calm but firm. "Did the call say we were armed?" "Causing trouble." Renshaw dodged the question. "Show me your IDs." Andre's eyes narrowed. "Are we being detained?" No answer. Jolene gripped the counter, her knuckles pale. Bianca's phone kept rolling, her live stream picking up comments. "Why is he targeting them?" "This is wrong." An older man in a John Deere hat stood up, his voice slow but clear. "These fellas bothering anyone?" Jolene snapped. "Only one causing a stir is you, deputy." Renshaw's jaw twitched, but he didn't back down. Darnell sighed, pulling out his military ID, placing it on the table. "Here, since you need it so bad." Andre followed, tossing his own ID beside it. "This what suspicious looks like." Renshaw stared at the IDs, unmoving, then lifted his radio. "Unit 24 to dispatch." The door swung open again, cutting him off. Lieutenant Charles Drury, mid-60s, stepped in, his uniform wrinkled, but his presence commanding. He took one look at the scene and shook his head. "Stand down, Kyle," he said firmly. Renshaw hesitated. "I was responding to a call." Drury's eyes narrowed. "I heard it. A block number said 2 black men were out of place. No threats, no weapons. You escalated this." He turned to Darnell and Andre. "I know you both from Memorial Day event. You read the names last year." Darnell nodded slowly. "We remember." Drury glanced at Renshaw. "Outside." Now, as they stepped out, Andre muttered, "Guess we weren't invisible after all." The diner exhaled, but the weight lingered. Bianca's stream kept climbing, comments flooding in. Jolene poured more coffee, her hand steady but her eyes sharp. "You boys all right?" Darnell gave a small smile. "We're still here." Andre leaned forward, his voice low but fierce. Tennessee Code, Section 39-13-305. I don't have to show ID unless you name a specific crime. You didn't. Renshaw, now outside with Drury, couldn't hear, but the diner did. Jolene nodded, topping off Darnell's mug. Only crime here is low coffee. Bianca whispered into her stream, "This is Clarksville, y'all. Veterans getting harassed for eating eggs." Her chat exploded. Preach. This is why we record. Darnell spoke, his voice heavy. I was born 20 miles from here. Bled in Fallujah. Built roofs in this town. And still, I'm a suspect. Drury re-entered alone, his face tired. Renshaw's on leave. We're reviewing this. Andre scoffed. Training's one thing. Accountability's another. Drury didn't argue. You're right. Bianca's phone buzzed with a call from WKR News. They want a live interview, she said. Andre tilted his head. Tell them we'll think about it. The diner felt alive, like it was holding its breath for what came next. A news van pulled into the lot, its WKR logo gleaming. Inside, Denise Larkin, a reporter in a sharp blazer, set up with her cameraman. She approached Bianca first. Can the gentleman speak on camera? Andre sighed. Only if we talk for ourselves. The camera's red light blinked on. Denise faced the lens. We're live from Millie's diner, where two black veterans were confronted by a deputy. Sergeant Darnell Hughes and Andre Wallace. Thank you for joining us. Darnell spoke clearly. We came for breakfast. A deputy demanded our IDs based on a vague call. No explanation, no questions. Andre added, it's profiling. Plain and simple. Before Denise could ask more, Sheriff Nolan Keene walked in, his cowboy boots clicking on the tile. He carried a folded letter and looked straight at the veterans. I watched the video. What happened was wrong. Renshaw's on leave, and we're reviewing our training. He handed them the letter, a formal apology. I want you to help us fix this. Join our board, talk to our recruits. Andre raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect a job offer over pancakes. The parking lot outside Millie's grew crowded, a mix of curious locals and angry protesters holding signs. Respect vets. Justice now. Sheriff Keene stepped outside, reading his apology letter to the crowd. Applause followed, cautious but real. Inside, Jolene slid a paper bag with coffees to go across the table. Breakfast covered for your next 10 visits. A woman, Marcia, approached, holding a folded American flag from her father's funeral. He was Vietnam. He want you to have this. Darnell accepted it gently. Thank you. Another deputy, Russell Vega, entered, offering a handshake. I'm sorry. We don't all act like Renshaw. Darnell shook his hand. Then prove it. Every day. Bianca's stream hit 130,000 views, the story spreading like wildfire. A local teen, Terrence, asked to write about it for his school paper. Andre nodded. Tell the truth. The diner buzzed, not with tension now, but with something new. Hope, maybe, or at least the start of it. As the news crew packed up, an older man, Eldon Price, a Korean War vet, approached the booth. He placed a faded military patch on the table. You earned that breakfast. And more. He walked away without another word. Bianca's phone kept buzzing. Messages, shares, donations offered. Darnell waved it off. We don't want money. Just respect. The diner felt different, like it had become a stage for something bigger. Mrs. Gwendolyn Pierce, a neighbor, brought a pecan pie, her voice soft. My husband was Air Force. He'd have hated this. Andre took the pie, smiling. We'll share it. Outside, the crowd thinned, but the story didn't. It was on Channel 9, Twitter, Reddit. Darnell checked his phone, text from his daughter, a Marine buddy, strangers. You spoke for us, one read. Andre looked at him. This could help or hurt us. Darnell nodded. It's a mirror. Shows what's real. They stood, ready to leave, but Millie's diner had changed. It wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a place where a quiet breakfast turned into a lesson no one would forget. The sun climbed higher over Clarksville, casting shadows through Millie's diner's smudged windows. Darnell and Andre stayed in their booth, coffee cups empty, the folded flag and pecan pie resting between them. The diner's hum had softened, but the air still felt charged, like everyone was waiting for the next move. Jolene wiped the counter, her rag moving in slow circles, her eyes flicking to the veterans. "You boys holding up?" she asked, her voice warm but tired. Andre gave a half-smile. "We're still sitting, ain't we?" Darnell chuckled, but it was heavy, like he was carrying the morning's weight in his chest. Outside, the news van was gone, but a few folks lingered in the lot, phones out, snapping pictures of Millie's like it was a landmark. The story wasn't just theirs anymore. It was Clarksville's, maybe even bigger. Andre leaned back, stretching his arms. "Man, I just wanted eggs, not a headline." Darnell nodded, his fingers tracing the edge of his military ID. "Life's got a way of picking fights you didn't ask for." Their words were quiet, but they carried the kind of truth that made the diner feel smaller, more personal. At the counter, Bianca packed her bag, her phone still buzzing with notifications. She glanced over, hesitant. "Y'all, this video's at 200,000 views now. People are mad, but they're inspired too." Andre raised an eyebrow. "Inspired? By us eating biscuits?" Bianca laughed softly. "By you standing your ground without raising a fist." Darnell looked at her, his eyes steady. "That's just how we were raised. You don't back down, but you don't lose yourself either." Across the room, Miles, the UPS driver who'd walked in earlier, sipped his coffee, listening. He hadn't said much, but now he spoke up, his voice low. "I saw it all from outside before I came in. Almost didn't. Thought I'd be next." Andre turned to him, nodding. "We know that feeling. Glad you stayed." Miles gave a small nod back, like they just shared a secret only some folks would understand. The diner's door opened again, and a teenage girl, maybe 16, slipped in, clutching a notebook. Her name was Kyla, a shy kid from the high school. I saw the video," she stammered. "Can I ask you something for a project? About what it's like to be a veteran here." Darnell smiled, gentle. "Sure, kid, but it's not all hero stuff. It's just living." Kyla scribbled that down, her pen shaking a little. Jolene brought over 2 fresh waters, sliding into the booth across from them. "This place hasn't been this alive since the tornado hit in '09, she said, her eyes soft but serious. "You two stirred something up." Andre shook his head. "We didn't mean to. Just wanted breakfast." Jolene leaned forward. "Sometimes that's how change starts. Over coffee and a bad call." Her words hung there, simple but heavy. Outside, a pickup truck slowed by the diner, the driver staring before moving on. Inside, an older couple, the Fergusons, whispered over their pie, replaying Bianca's video. Mrs. Ferguson looked over. "You did good, fellas. Made us all think." Andre gave a small nod. "Hope it sticks." Then, a man in a flannel shirt, maybe 50, stood up from a corner table. His name was Tom, a mechanic who fixed cars down the road. He walked over, hands in his pockets. "I didn't say nothing earlier," he said, voice rough. "Should've. My brother's Navy. He'd be pissed if he saw this." Darnell met his eyes. "Say it now, then." "That's enough." Tom nodded, like he'd just paid a debt, and went back to his seat. Bianca's phone buzzed again, a text from her cousin. "People are planning a vigil outside the sheriff's office tomorrow," she said. Andre sighed. "Hope it's peaceful." Darnell added, "Hope it's loud enough to matter." The door jingled again, and Mrs. Gwendolyn Pierce, the woman who'd brought the pie, came back. She held a small photo in her hand, her husband in his Air Force uniform, smiling. "I forgot to give you this," she said, her voice cracking. "He'd want you to know he saw you, even if the deputy didn't." Andre took the photo gently. "This means something, ma'am." "Thank you." She wiped her eyes and left, the door closing softly behind her. The diner felt like a bubble, holding all these moments, anger, apologies, small acts of kindness. Andre looked at Darnell. "You think this changes anything?" Darnell shrugged. "Depends if people keep talking when the cameras leave." Outside, the world moved on. Cars passed, a dog barked. But inside Millie's, something was growing, something that felt like it might last. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed softly as Darnell and Andre sat in their booth, the pecan pie and folded flags still on the table. The air felt different now, like a storm had passed but left a restless energy behind. Jolene was back at the counter, pouring coffee for a regular, but her eyes kept darting to the veterans. Outside, the parking lot was quieter, but a few folks still lingered, phones out, whispering about the video that was now pushing 300,000 views. Andre sipped his water, shaking his head. Man, we're a whole news cycle now. Darnell gave a tired grin. Didn't sign up for that. Their quiet moment didn't last. The door swung open, and a young man in a sheriff's department jacket stepped in, his face pale, eyes wide. It wasn't Renshaw. It was Deputy Mark Tate, barely 25, looking like he'd just run a mile. Tate hesitated, then walked straight to the booth, his voice shaky. "Mr. Hughes, Mr. Wallace, I need to tell you something." The diner went quiet again, forks pausing mid-bite. Andre leaned forward, eyes sharp. "What's going on?" Tate swallowed hard. "I was with Renshaw this morning, in the cruiser. I heard the call come in. It wasn't just a random tip." Darnell's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Tate glanced around, like he was afraid someone might hear. "The caller. It was someone from the department. Off duty. They didn't use a block number at first. I heard the name." The room seemed to shrink. Bianca, still at the counter, quietly started her phone again, her fingers trembling. Jolene leaned in, voice low. "You saying this was planned?" Tate nodded, barely. "I don't know why, but Renshaw got the call and didn't question it. I should have said something then, but I froze." Andre's jaw tightened. "Who made the call?" Tate hesitated, then whispered a name, Deputy Collins. Gasps rippled through the diner. Collins was a known name in Clarksville, older, hard-nosed, always at town meetings complaining about outsiders. Darnell's voice stayed calm, but his eyes were steel. "You're telling us this came from inside your own house?" Tate looked down. "I'm sorry. I came here to make it right." Bianca's live stream chat exploded. "A setup? This is bigger than we thought." Before anyone could process it, the door opened again. This time, it was Kyla, the high school girl, back with a friend, a boy named Jamal, also 16, holding a crumpled poster. "We made this," Kyla said, voice nervous but proud. She unrolled it. "Honor vets demand justice." Jamal spoke up. "We're putting these up around town. For you." Andre blinked, caught off guard. "Y'all don't have to do that." Jamal shook his head. "We want to. My dad's Army. He says this happens too much." The kid's words hit hard, like a spark in dry grass. Jolene crossed her arms, smiling faintly. "Look at that. Kids teaching us grown folks." But the mood shifted again when Tom, the mechanic, stood up, his face red. "Tate, you saying your department's targeting people? That's not just one bad deputy." Tate didn't back away. "I don't know how deep it goes, but I'm here because I can't stay quiet anymore." Darnell looked at him, his voice steady. "Takes guts to say that. Now what's next?" Tate took a breath. "I'm going to the sheriff with this. Tonight." Andre nodded, slow. "You do that, and we'll be watching." The diner felt like it was holding its breath again. Every word a new twist in a story no one saw coming. Outside, a car pulled up. A woman in her 40s, Lisa Carter, who ran the local hair salon. She rushed in, out of breath. "I saw the video. My brother's a vet. I brought these." She held up wristbands, green with "Support Vets" written in black. "For everyone here, to show we stand with you." The diner erupted in quiet cheers as Lisa handed out the bands. Even Miles, the UPS driver, slipped one on, his eyes meeting Andre's. "This town's waking up," he said softly. Andre nodded, but his face was guarded. "Hope it stays awake." Darnell picked up the sheriff's letter, still unopened. "This just got bigger than us." Bianca's phone buzzed again. Another news outlet, this time national, asking for an interview. She looked at the veterans. "CNN's calling. You ready for that?" Andre sighed. "Not really, but I guess we don't get a pick." The diner, once just a place for coffee and eggs, was now a stage, and the spotlight wasn't dimming anytime soon. The diner's air felt thick with the smell of coffee and pie, but the mood was heavier, like everyone was carrying the weight of what Deputy Tate had just said. Darnell and Andre sat in their booth, the flag, pie, and sheriff's letter between them, untouched. Outside, the Clarksville sun beat down on the parking lot, where a few folks still stood, some holding Kyla and Jamal's posters. Inside, Jolene leaned against the counter, her eyes soft but sharp, watching the veterans like a mom checking on her kids. "Y'all need anything?" she asked, her voice gentle. Andre gave a small smile. "Just a minute to think, Jolene." Darnell nodded, his fingers tapping the table. "This thing's bigger than breakfast now." Their words were quiet, but they hit like a slow drum, pulling everyone in the diner closer. Bianca sat at the counter, her phone still buzzing with messages. She looked over, her voice low. "That video's at 400,000 views. People are sharing it everywhere." Andre shook his head, half laughing. "All this over some eggs?" But his eyes weren't laughing. They were tired, like he'd seen this fight too many times. Darnell looked at the kid's poster on a nearby table. "Honor vets demand justice," and sighed. "Those kids, they're carrying this forward." Kyla, sitting nearby with Jamal, overheard and blushed. "We just want people to know what's right," she said softly. Jamal nodded. "My dad says you don't stay quiet when something's wrong." The diner felt alive, every word stitching people together, strangers becoming something more. Miles, the UPS driver, stood up, adjusting his wristband. "I got a delivery route in 20 minutes, he said, "but I'm telling everyone I see about this. You two showed me something today." Andre met his gaze. "You showed up too, man. That counts." Miles gave a quick nod and headed out, the bell jingling behind him. Then an older woman, Mrs. Ferguson, walked over, her hands clasped tight. "My son's in the reserves," she said, her voice shaky. "I keep thinking, what if this happens to him?" Darnell's face softened. "Tell him to know his rights, and to keep his head up." She nodded, tears in her eyes, and slipped back to her booth, where her husband squeezed her hand. The door opened again, and a man in his 30s, wearing a faded Titan's cap, stepped in. His name was Corey, a local teacher. He looked nervous but determined. "I heard what happened," he said, approaching the booth. "I teach history at the high school. Can I bring my students here to meet you? They need to hear this from you." Andre blinked, surprised. "You want us to talk to kids?" Corey nodded. "They're learning about civil rights. This is real life." Darnell smiled faintly. "All right, Corey, but we're just telling it like it is." Corey grinned, relieved. "That's all they need." The diner buzzed with small moments like that. People stepping up, sharing stories, offering support. It wasn't loud, but it was steady like a heartbeat. Jolene brought over 2 slices of the pecan pie, setting them down with a wink. "On the house. You earned it." Andre chuckled. "You trying to make us stay all day?" Jolene shrugged. "Maybe. This place feels better with you here." Outside, a small group of teenagers gathered, holding more of Kyla's posters. One kid raised his phone, taking a selfie with Millie's sign in the background. Bianca noticed and smiled. "They're making this place famous," she said. Darnell looked out the window, his voice quiet. "Hope they're making it matter." Andre nodded, his eyes on the flag. "This ain't just about us. It's about every kid who looks like us, wondering if they're next." Then Lisa, the salon owner, came back, her face serious. "I just heard from a friend at the sheriff's office," she said, leaning in. "They're holding a meeting tonight about what Tate said. About Collins. People are pushing for a bigger investigation." Andre's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them dig," Darnell added, "but they better not bury it." The diner felt like a hub now, a place where stories collided. Anger, hope, fear, and a stubborn kind of faith. Jolene looked at the veterans. "You two started something today. Don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere." Andre took a bite of pie, his voice soft. "Hope it's somewhere worth going." Darnell nodded, his eyes on the door, like he knew the world outside was listening now. The diner's windows glowed with late morning light, but inside, the mood was a mix of calm and restless. Darnell and Andre sat in their booth, the pecan pie half-eaten, the flag and sheriff's letter still untouched. The air smelled of coffee and grease, but the weight of the day clung to every table. Jolene moved behind the counter, her apron wrinkled, humming a tune to keep things steady. "Y'all want more pie?" she asked, her voice soft like she knew they needed more than food. Andre grinned faintly. "You gonna make me too heavy to walk out of here?" Darnell chuckled, but his eyes were on the parking lot, where a small crowd still lingered, some holding signs, others just watching. The story was spreading. Bianca's phone showed 500,000 views now, with comments flooding in. "This is our town. Justice for vets." A new face appeared at the door, a woman in her 50s, Clara, who ran the bakery down the street. She carried a tray of warm cookies, her hands shaking slightly. "I saw the news," she said, setting the tray on their table. "My son's a Marine. He's deployed right now. Thank you for speaking up." Her voice cracked, and she wiped her eyes. Darnell nodded gently. "Tell your son we're proud of him." Clara smiled, leaving the cookies behind. The small gesture felt big, like the diner was collecting pieces of the town's heart. Andre looked at the cookies, then at Darnell. "Man, we're going to need a bigger table." They laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that hit a deeper ache. Then the door swung open again, and this time the air shifted hard. It was Deputy Collins, the one Tate had named. Older, grizzled, with a face like he'd chewed gravel, he stood in the doorway, not in uniform but still carrying that badge-heavy attitude. The diner froze. Jolene's rag stopped mid-wipe. Bianca's phone tilted up, her thumb hovering over record. Collins stepped toward the booth, his eyes locked on Andre and Darnell. "Heard my name's getting tossed around," he said, voice low and rough. Andre didn't flinch. "You heard right. Want to explain that call you made?" Collins smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I saw two guys outside, looked off. Did my job." Darnell's voice was calm but sharp. "Your job is to protect, not point fingers with no proof." The room felt like it was holding its breath. Jolene stepped forward, her voice firm. "You're not on duty, Collins. Don't start trouble in my diner." He glanced at her, then back at the veterans. "I'm not here to fight. Just saying, calls like that happen every day." Andre leaned forward, his voice cutting. "Not to everyone. You picked us." "Why?" Collins shifted, his smirk fading. "I don't have to answer to you." Before things could escalate, Corey, the teacher, stood up. "You answer to this town," he said, his voice steady. "And we're watching." The diner murmured agreement, a quiet strength rising. Collins turned and left, the door slamming behind him. Bianca whispered, "Got that on video." Her chat lit up. "That's him. Call him out." Kyla and Jamal, still at a nearby table, looked shaken but determined. Kyla spoke up, her voice small but clear. "We're putting his name on our posters, too." Andre nodded. "Be careful, kid. Truth's heavy." Jamal added, "We're not scared." "You weren't." The diner felt like a fire now, not burning out of control, but glowing, steady. Outside, a news van returned, and Sheriff Keene's cruiser pulled up again. He stepped inside, his face tired but resolute. "I heard about Collins," he said, looking at Darnell and Andre. "Tate came to me. We're pulling his records. This isn't over." Darnell met his eyes. "Better not be. We're not here for apologies. We want change." Keene nodded. "You'll get a seat at the table." "I mean it." The diner exhaled, but the energy didn't fade. Mrs. Ferguson handed out more of Lisa's wristbands to new customers, her hand steady now. "This is for my son," she said to each one. Andre looked at Darnell, his voice low. "This town's waking up, but it's going to take more than cookies and wristbands." Darnell nodded, his eyes on the kids' posters. "It starts here. With them." The bell jingled again, and a young boy, maybe 12, peeked in, holding a bike helmet. He stared at the veterans, waved shyly, and ran off. Andre smiled. "That kid's going to remember today." Darnell nodded. "Hope he remembers why." The diner's air felt warm now, the smell of cookies mixing with the fading scent of bacon. Darnell and Andre leaned back in their booth, the table crowded with the flag, pie, cookies, and Sheriff Keene's unopened letter. Jolene hummed softly behind the counter, her eyes flicking to the veterans like she was checking their pulse. Outside, the Clarksville sun burned brighter, and the parking lot held a handful of people, some with signs, others just watching, phones in hand. Bianca's video was at 600,000 views, the numbers climbing like a fever. "This thing's bigger than us now," Andre said, his voice low, almost like he was talking to himself. Darnell nodded, his fingers brushing the flag. "Always was. We just gave it a name." The diner felt like a heartbeat, steady but ready to race. A new customer walked in, an older man, Mr. Hayes, who owned the hardware store across the street. He carried a small wooden box, his hands rough from years of work. "Heard what happened," he said, setting the box down. "My dad was a vet. Korea. He made this for his medals. Want you to have it." His voice was gruff but kind, like he wasn't used to giving things away. Andre opened the box, revealing a faded velvet lining. "This is special, Mr. Hayes." "Thank you." The old man waved it off and left, but his gesture lingered, another piece of the town stitching itself to their story. Jolene smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "Y'all are going to need a truck for all this love." Darnell chuckled. "Might need one just to get home." Then, the door swung open with a sharp jingle, and the mood shifted. It was a woman in her 30s, Tara, a local activist who'd been at every town hall for years. Her eyes were fire, her phone already recording. "I saw the video," she said, marching to the booth. "And I heard about Collins. This isn't just one deputy, it's the whole system." Andre nodded, calm but firm. "We know. Been living it." Tara's voice softened. "I'm organizing a march tomorrow, outside the sheriff's office. Will you come?" Darnell hesitated, his eyes meeting Andre's. "We're not activists, Tara. Just two guys who want a breakfast." She leaned in. "That's why it matters. You didn't ask for this, but you showed up." The diner watched, quiet, as if her words were a spark waiting to catch. Bianca, still at the counter, spoke up. "Tara, I'm posting about the march. People online are ready to show up." Her phone buzzed again. Comments, shares, even a message from a lawyer offering free help if they wanted to sue. Andre shook his head. "We don't want money. Just fairness." Tara nodded, respect in her eyes. "Then let us walk with you." Before they could answer, Kyla, the high school girl, stood up, her voice braver now. "Me and Jamal are coming too. We're making more posters tonight." Jamal added, "My dad's bringing his friends. Vets. They're mad." The diner felt like it was knitting together, each person adding a thread to something bigger. Then, a man in a suit stepped in, Paul, a city council member who rarely left his office. His face was tight, like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Sheriff Keene sent me," he said, approaching the booth. "He wants to meet with you both tonight, privately, to talk about next steps." Andre raised an eyebrow. "Next steps?" Or, covering his tracks. Paul flinched, but didn't dodge. "He wants to start a community board. You'd have real say." Darnell's voice was steady. "We'll listen, but we're not here to make him look good." Paul nodded and left quickly, like he'd checked a box. Jolene snorted. "Politicians, always late to the party." The diner laughed, but it was a tired laugh, full of hope and doubt mixed together. Outside, a group of kids rode by on bikes, slowing to look at Millie's like it was a museum. One waved at Andre, who waved back, his face softening. "Those kids," he said quietly, "they're why we didn't back down." Darnell nodded, his eyes on the letter. "And why we won't." The diner wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a mirror, reflecting a town that was waking up one person at a time. Bianca looked at her phone. "CNN's coming tomorrow. They want you on air." Andre sighed. "Eggs and coffee, man. That's all we wanted." Darnell smiled just a little. "Guess we're serving something else now." The diner's lights flickered slightly, casting soft shadows over the worn tables. Darnell and Andre sat in their booth, the flag, pie, cookies, and wooden box forming a small pile of gifts from town that wouldn't let them go unnoticed. The smell of coffee lingered, and Jolene's quiet humming filled the gaps between conversations. Outside, the Clarksville afternoon felt heavy, with a few folks still gathered in the lot, their signs now joined by flowers left near Millie's sign. Bianca's video had hit 700,000 views, and her phone buzzed nonstop with messages. "Keep filming. This is our fight, too." Andre shook his head, his voice low. "This thing's got legs now." Darnell nodded, his eyes on the kids outside. "Hope it runs somewhere good." A young woman, Sarah, slipped through the door, her barista apron still tied from the coffee shop nearby. She held a small envelope, her hands nervous. I saw what happened," she said, standing by the booth. "My brother's a vet. He struggles. I wrote you this." She handed them a note, her eyes bright with tears. Andre opened it. A simple card, thanking them for showing strength her brother needed to see. "Tell him he's not alone," Darnell said softly. Sarah nodded, leaving quickly, like the moment was too big for her to hold. Jolene watched her go, then slid 2 fresh waters across the table. "This town's got a heart, but it's learning slow," she said. Andre chuckled. Better late than never. Then, the door opened again and the air tightened. It was Mrs. Carter, the salon owner, but this time her face was grim. "I just came from a sheriff's office," she said, voice low. "Collins is telling people to call. Was a mistake, that he saw someone else outside. Not you." Andre's eyes narrowed. "He's backtracking now?" Mrs. Carter nodded. "He's scared. People are calling for his badge." Darnell leaned forward. "Let him squirm. Truth's out." The diner buzzed, whispers spreading. Bianca, still filming, muttered, "This is going to blow up even more." Her live stream chat agreed. "He's lying. Don't let him off." Kyla and Jamal, at their table, looked up, their posters now stacked high. "We're adding Colin's name to these," Kyla said, her voice firm. Jamal nodded. "My dad says he's been trouble for years." The kids' fire lit something in the room, and even Mr. Ferguson, the quiet regular, spoke up. "He pulled over my grandson last year for nothing." Same story. The diner felt like a courtroom now, each voice adding weight to the case. Then a new face appeared. A reporter, not from WKR, but a bigger network, NBC. His name was David, and he carried a notebook, not a camera. "I'm here for your story," he said, approaching the booth. "Not just today, but who you are. America needs to know." Andre sighed, rubbing his neck. "We're just two guys, man." David shook his head. "You're more than that now." Darnell looked at him, steady. "If we talk, it's not for fame. It's for the next guy who just wants breakfast." David nodded, jotting that down. Outside, a small group of veterans arrived, some in old service caps, holding signs that read, "We served, we deserve respect." One, a woman named Linda, came inside. "We heard," she said, her voice thick. "We're here for you." Andre met her eyes. "And we're here for you." The diner wasn't just a place anymore. It was a bridge connecting stories, anger, and hope. Bianca's phone buzzed again. A text from Tara, the activist. "March is set for 6 p.m. tomorrow." Sheriffs agreed to speak. Andre looked at Darnell. "We going?" Darnell shrugged. "If it keeps this moving, yeah." Jolene leaned in, her voice soft. "You two are carrying a lot. Don't forget to rest." Andre smiled faintly. "Rest comes when the work's done." The diner hummed with quiet strength, each person tied to the moment, knowing it wasn't over. Outside, a kid on a bike slowed by again, staring at the veterans. Darnell waved, and the kid waved back, his smile small but real. The sun dipped low over Clarksville, painting Millie's diner in a soft orange glow. Inside, the booth where Darnell and Andre sat held the weight of the day. Flag, pie, cookies, a wooden box, and the sheriff's letter. Now opened, its words read but not yet settled. The diner was quieter now, the smell of coffee fading as Jolene swept the floor, her humming a steady anchor. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty, but a few signs and flowers still leaned against Millie's sign, like offerings to a moment that refused to fade. Bianca's video had soared past 1 million views, and her phone glowed with messages. "You changed things. Keep fighting." Andre looked at it, shaking his head. All this from a plate of eggs. Darnell smiled faintly. "Sometimes that's where it starts." A final visitor pushed through the door, Sheriff Keene, alone, his cowboy boots scuffing the floor. He held no letter this time, just a tired look that carried the day's weight. "I owe you more than words," he said, standing by the booth. "Collins is out. Resigned an hour ago. Tate's testimony sealed it." The diner gasped softly, even Jolene pausing her broom. Andre leaned forward, eyes sharp. "And the department?" He met his gaze. "We're starting new training next week. You two are invited to speak. Not for show, for real change." Darnell nodded, slow. "We'll be there, but we're holding you to it." Keene extended his hand, and they shook, a promise sealed in the quiet. Kyla and Jamal, still at their table, grinned, their posters now a stack of bold colors. "We're marching tomorrow anyway," Kyla said, voice bright. "For you, for everyone." Andre chuckled. "You kids are trouble. Good trouble." Jamal's dad, a vet himself, walked in then, his army cap proud. He nodded at Darnell and Andre. "My buddies are coming. We're proud of you." The diner felt warm, like a family gathering, each person tied by something stronger than anger. Hope, stubborn and real. Bianca slipped her phone into her pocket, her voice soft. I'm posting one last clip tonight. Just you two, talking about what matters. Darnell nodded. Make it about respect, not us. Jolene set down 2 to-go cups, her eyes shining. You come back tomorrow, breakfast on me. Forever. Andre laughed, real and deep. You'll go broke, Jolene. She winked. Worth it. Outside, the last light faded, and a small crowd gathered again, not for protest, but to leave candles by the flowers. Linda, the veteran from earlier, lit one, her hand steady. For every vet who feels invisible, she said. Andre and Darnell stepped outside, the air cool, the town quiet. A boy on a bike rode by, waving again. Darnell waved back, his voice low. That kid's gonna carry this. Andre nodded. So will we. They walked to their cars, the flag and gifts in hand, the diner behind them glowing like a beacon. The moral wasn't loud, but it was clear. Change starts small, over coffee and courage, when you stand calm but firm, knowing your worth. Darnell looked back at Millie's one last time. We didn't ask for this. Andre smiled. But we answered. The town would talk about that day for years. How 2 men, wanting only breakfast, showed a community what it meant to stand tall. And as they drove away, the candles flickered, a promise that the fight for respect would burn on. Moral lesson: change doesn't need a stage or a spotlight. It starts with everyday people who refuse to shrink, who speak their truth with calm strength, and who remind others that respect is owed to everyone, no matter where they sit. Stand your ground, know your rights, and let your story spark the change you want to see.